I'm Andy Hall. I'm the Head of Digital Inclusion for Scope, and Scope are a disability charity who are working across the UK to deliver advice, guidance, information and support in basically disabled people's lives. We have had a journey across a number of years, building up and developing how we approach what we not just talk about as an organisation, but also what we actually deliver, across our business. Charity at the end of the day is a business. It has lots of employees, but also it has to live more than just what it says. And how do we get there? How do we get into a position where we can talk about this with confidence? Just to bring things to a local level. Yes, there are 1 billion people in the world. That's quite abstract. Who live with disabilities, but the reality of the matter is, as this slide is showing, 643,000 people known to be disabled in Ireland, and 13.3 million in the UK. That's 1 in 5. They are your customers. They are your employees. They are your family. And at the end of the day, ultimately, they will be people that you interact with. They're candidates. They're your suppliers. Overall, recognizing that and not excluding those people in your considerations is really important. It's vital to the delivery of an inclusive business. It's also vital to include that consideration in quite an important way. And overall, if you miss that, and it's been touched on, is that it will impair your progress as an organisation. It will impair how people are able to interact with you as a business, and you will miss opportunities. I have heard every single one of these comments. Why should we bother? Nobody's complained. Is your complaints process working properly? Do you test it? Do you make sure? Do you ask? These are the things that really, really matter. I've often heard, nobody's visibly disabled within the organisation. People believe that that's the case. As Hector touched on earlier, a lot of people are invisibly disabled. I've got lots of experience of people actually deliberately covering up disability because they didn't believe that their employer or colleagues would accept them as a disabled person. So they hid that away actively to stay away from being labelled in that way. But once disability became a conversation within the organisation, it really came to that person's opportunity to say, by the way, that includes me. And that is when things start to move on, the culture starts to move on. There's arguments about saying, we can't afford it. Well, there's support out there. From the point of view in England, Wales and Northern Ireland and Scotland, there is access to work, and that is provided by DWP. And that is a grant to provide reasonable adjustments, but also to help in assessments and things of that nature. So it's really valuable in supporting it, and it's about shifting that agenda away from the we don't have the money. In Ireland, there is the grant available for workplace adaptations, and that again can be accessed and support organisations to deliver it. I've often heard that people just say, well, it's just websites. It isn't. It's your whole process. It's everything. And this is the approach that we've taken as an organisation right the way through our culture, is it's not just websites. It's every digital thing that is in an ecosystem. It's everything that anybody that you interact with as an organisation touches, uses, feels. It's the whole experience. We made an active decision. It's about leadership, and our chief exec leads and reports at board level with regards to how we deliver our disability approach. We put disabled people at the heart of all that we do, and that's really, really important. Our culture across digital was led by our chief digital officer, but reporting again to the chief exec. So actually saying, we are going to progress these things. We are really going to progress them effectively. And we're going to make sure that we measure them and things of that nature. So we are open and we evolve. As an organisation, we first set up a strategic group. That strategic group pulled together a number of colleagues who are disabled, but were open about it and happy to talk about it and sought their advice, sought their opinions. Even though I've been working in a disability environment for a very long time, it doesn't mean that my experience is perfect. It's just my experience. So finding other people's experiences and being open in an organisation and saying, we want to know more about what it is like to be you working in this organisation is vital. If you can't get people to talk about it openly, make sure you produce a channel that is completely anonymous and that people trust is anonymous so that they can give you their opinion. If you're looking at the outside world, if you're looking at your customers, give them the opportunity to tell you anonymously what they think. We really valued that, and it has made a considerable impact upon how we've shaped and delivered things. So that we've been able to support our disabled colleagues, one of the things that we made a decision to do was to take the reliance on individual managers away from that they're being focused upon and bringing them up to being supported by a central team. And by doing that, we created a team which includes myself, and we work across IT, across digital and HR. We speak all the different languages. We've brought those experiences together, but we put the person at the centre of it, and it's a person-centred approach, which is really important. The customer that we refer to as our colleagues, that customer, we're answerable to them ultimately. And by doing the independent approach, it also allows people to come to us where they are running against problems. If they're running into problems, say with support from IT, we're able to bridge that gap. We're able to have a conversation which really is technical, but also human at the same time. So we're the interpreters, and finding people within your organisation that can work in that way, whether you set them up as an independent team or whether you embed them within the team, setting those champions up, setting up groups of people who will talk about disability openly and confidently, really starts to get that conversation going, and it makes sure that everybody starts to understand that it's everybody's responsibility to be part of it. We support managers with a centralised support budget. That moves us cleanly and very quickly away from the my team can't afford this because it's on our budget. By providing a centralised support budget from the point of view of an HR team, we're able to look at that and say, what does inclusion cost us as an organisation? Where is that support going? And we're able to report to that at board level and show that commitment and show that people are getting active support and are being, the teams are not having to worry about those things. The last thing anybody in HR wants is a manager getting it wrong and causing the organisation litigation problems and things of that nature. So providing central support moves those pressures off managers, and it moves it away to getting help. There's no excuse. We've published this very strongly. We promote on a regular basis to the organisation. Here is where you can get help, and you're not on your own, and you don't leave managers on their own. They're very well supported. We've created a reasonable adjustments passport. One of the most important things is that from the point of view of disabled people, the feedback that we received is, I am sick and tired of repeating to my next new manager what disability I've got and what I need to support it. It's an approach adopted by a number of organisations. It's been adopted right across our organisation. Recently heard that the Metropolitan Police have gone for passports, and it allows people then to say, without too much explanation, this is who I am, this is what I need, and be able to get on with their job, because that is the important thing. We've developed an accessible workplace through procurement. We have a conversation through everything that we buy pure and simply about, is what we're doing accessible? Is what we're going to buy accessible? Are we going to go with this product? Are we going to even talk to this organisation after they put in a tender if they can't prove to us that the product's going to be accessible and they understand our requirements as an organisation? And to the extent that we have told companies, if you cannot deliver accessibility, if you cannot deliver a product and an experience, and a good experience for disabled people, then quite straightforwardly, we will not spend money with you. We will go and look to other organisations who can supply that, can either integrate it or build it for us. And it's really important to set that out clearly in that process. So we've worked again, it's outside of just HR and IT, but it's working with everybody who's involved with selecting products to say it must work for everybody. And we have a very clear framework for assessing that. We work within the British standard of BS 8878 for build, design, delivery and life cycle of our digital products. And we're looking at the ISO standard, which is new and emerging. So from that point of view, it's making sure that disabled people are considered all the way through, from something being designed, even on a piece of paper, right the way through to end of life cycle. And that really matters from the point of view of not coming back into an organisation saying, oh, it isn't accessible and it's 100 times more expensive to fix once it's been released than it would have been if you'd had the conversation while it was still an idea and had a concept. Ultimately, we still have problems with things. We still recognise that things aren't perfect, and we have made sure that even if we do put something out that's imperfect, we're very honest about it. So that's the other side of it. It builds confidence in colleagues. It builds confidence in our suppliers and our customers that we are not just saying what we're going to do, we're delivering it, and being very clear when we don't get it perfect, but we then are continuing to work to make it perfect. Digital accessible experiences, really important in an HR environment to make sure that the whole experience is accessible. So as an example, recruitment. Simon was talking about recruitment and saying that so many people in the talent pool do have disabilities. How do you make sure that your recruitment works for them? Well, it's literally taking the whole process, take the process of recruitment, make sure that where you advertise for candidates is fully accessible, get somebody to go right the way through every single step. Are you putting some barriers in? Are you creating situations where a candidate will not be able to access and involve themselves with your process and will just walk away and go to work for somebody else? And that is vital. It can be, if you're using agencies, does their website work for disabled people? If you're truly committed to recruiting disabled people, will their website work? Will you commission them again to do your recruitment if they can't bring you that talent pool? Should you be spending money bringing people in who they've already filtered out and they've worked to exclude by accident, not deliberately, but it's about making sure that those things happen and keeping people on board all the way through. You want your candidates to come through, gamifying recruitment, things of that nature. Get it tested, test it with disabled people, test it with your colleagues, put it out there, get feedback. It's really, really important. I also lead on web accessibility, so we put everything across testing, but our recruitment journey, even for instance, telling somebody that if you're going to call and leave a message, what information is required if you're on a message answer phone, because that could put somebody off who has anxiety. So if they know the information you want, they will have that already prepared rather than bringing up, listening to it, walking away from it because they couldn't find the information very quickly. Accessibility is not just about delivering the WCAG standards, and techies will talk about the Web Consortium Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG. greatly, but those are the technical information. Those are the backgrounds to underpinning these things, but great content, great user experience and great accessibility are not mutually exclusive. They work together. They are vital to making sure that ultimately your candidates, your employees, and anybody who is involved with you, even your investors, are really getting the feel that you are an organization for them. And that is led and reported on. We report through to chief exec. That's reported to our trustee board as an organisation. So that how we've brought that all together is centralising those support, bringing that concept of disabled people right the way through, disabled people being involved with design, build, testing, and understanding that the people who are disabled are inherently involved with everything that we are as an organisation. It is vital. I mean, we get somewhere in the region of 23,000 calls a year to our helpline just for support. So we have to make sure that things of that nature really, really function. If they don't, we lose credibility, but also we lose customers. And we report on all of those things. Bringing those things all together and all of that approach as an organisation of disabled people for disabled people is being able to then talk about that in a way that influences the world. And we have a campaigning end of the organisation, which is the Big Hack, and that is the culmination of a lot of work and a lot of research internally through what we do, externally through seeking people's thoughts, advice, feedback, polling people to say what works for you as a disabled person using the environment, and being able then to influence the design community, the build community, the agencies that you go out to bring you an accessible experience. And I talk to many agencies now who understand that accessibility is vital. And I've spoken to a few development agencies, web development agencies, who are saying now, we will not deliver an inaccessible product to a customer. We would rather walk away from the business than deliver an inaccessible experience. And that has been part through working with us as an organisation, but part through the campaigning and work that we've done to raise that agenda. If you have those conversations outwardly with your suppliers, you'll be surprised to find how many of them are genuinely positive. That is reflected in the community, and it's certainly been reflected through how the big technology companies have taken on digital inclusion. They know that it is vital for a modern workplace. They know that it is vital for a new way of delivering organizations. And as any business wants to be, you always want to be progressing. So following organizations like ourselves, talking to disability organizations if you haven't got internal advice, following things like the Big Hack, all help to have those conversations. And it's about having a conversation that's not just technology, it's not just about HR, but it's about where people and technology join together. And when they join together, that's where you get success.